The Toronto Raptors made a big splash at the trade deadline when they acquired Brandon Ingram, and that investment of resources indicates that they have a strong desire to be in the postseason next year. But in order for them to get there, they have to make some moves in the offseason for these specific types of players. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. This is Amateur Sports, and it's a YouTube channel dedicated completely to giving you Toronto Raptors news, analysis, and coverage in videos like this and live streams. If you enjoyed this video along the way, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and to support the channel that little bit extra, check out the merch that we have on sale. We've got hats like this in white and black. We have shirts like this and stickers for you to check out. Make sure you go hit the link in the description to get the Kijiji link, send me a message, and get the merch shipped out to you. But for today, we're focusing in on the Raptors off-season needs because, yes, the Raptors, was it a cut price deal for Brandon Ingram? Sure, but they did invest quite a bit of their resources into bringing in Brandon Ingram in the hopes that him alongside Scottie Barnes and the cast around them, that their hopes is that this is going to be a team that makes the playoffs next season. Brandon Ingram signed on a 2+1 deal. We got to get stuff done immediately. And the Raptors, I'm sure, will go into next season thinking that they don't make the playoffs. The season has not been a success. But as much as there's, some top-end talent on the roster, you've got Scottie Barnes, who's been an all-star, Brandon Ingram, who's been an all-star, you've got Quickly, who's hopefully continuing to get better, RJ Barrett may still be here, continuing to get better, Jakob Poeltl's a great anchor for that team, a good set of 5 players for your starting lineup, but you've got to fill in the depth around them, and there are some definite positional needs that the Raptors need to address to help facilitate that path towards the postseason. And there's 3 specific ones in general that I want to highlight in today's video, starting off with the need for rim protection. Backup rim protection. It's the same thing that I harped on all of last season that I wanted the Raptors to address, and they just never did. Jakob Poeltl is fantastic. I continue to talk about how good Jakob Poeltl is, and the further proof about Poeltl, last season, the Raptors were 4-28 when Poeltl didn't play. This season, the Raptors, as they go through their tanking process, when they want to lose a game, they take Poeltl out. It seems like he's the most impactful on winning for the team right now. Not just because he's a good player, but I think the bigger reason is there's just nobody else who can do the job that Jakob Poeltl does for the team. And immediately looking at the type of players that can address that concern, I think that the draft is based on where the Raptors are currently at. Right now, they're 7th in the tank standings, going to be selecting in the 6, 7, 8 range of the draft. Yes, they could get lucky and move further up, and it takes it away, but just as an example of somebody they could get in this position, it's Common Malawach out of Duke. You'll be able to watch him currently. I'm recording this during March Madness. You'll be able to watch Duke during March Madness. You'll be able to watch this guy during March Madness. But there's a reason he has creeped up with draft boards this season. He has played very well alongside some top-tier players on Duke on offense, like Cooper Flagg. He is still a little bit raw in these areas, but he is an incredible athlete and already showcasing really good signs defensively. He alters so many shots. He blocks a ton of shots. Great defensive player, good interior player on both ends of the floor, runs the floor really well, good rim protector. I think that this is an ideal fit for Common Malawach because he's not quite ready to jump into the starting 5. And the reality is, with the caliber of players that the Raptors have right now, it doesn't feel like, the Raptors aren't in the top 4 of the draft. It doesn't really feel like they're going to be getting a player that's kind of needing to start right away for the team. So if they do end up in this range, look, they could get lucky. They could move up in the draft. Absolutely. But the most realistic scenario is they end around 6, 7, 8 in the draft, and somebody like this is available. Year after year, the Raptors have struggled to fill the center position. Before they got Poeltl, they didn't have any rim protecting center. So at least they have one now. But there's clearly a need to address the backup spot. I think a guy like Common Malawach is a good player to look at for this. You could obviously look at trades, which is difficult. You could obviously look at the free agent market, which there's not a lot of centers available, and the Raptors have tried to kind of fill this need for a number of years, but have not been able to do so in free agency. So maybe the draft is the best pathway to get a player like this. Who knows? You're going to take the best player available. Maybe this isn't the best way in the draft. This is just a player to look at that could fit that position. And I think it's great for Malawach to have a vet like Poeltl to play behind and get those backup minutes for the Raptors and get plenty of those minutes as well. But however the Raptors address it, this is just a way they could. The Raptors do need to address the need for a backup center. Now, Further down, something else the Raptors do need to address. I could give you a video here talking about, well, they need a superstar player. They could go after Trae Young, LaMelo Ball. Let's be realistic here with the resources that we have. That's certainly two guys that could be available in the offseason, but I'm talking about piecing around the players that are currently with the team, because these are the realistic acquisitions that the Raptors can make. And I think the next thing that the Raptors need to look for here is another gritty defender. There's talent. There's offensive talent aplenty on this team. Maybe there's signs of the spacing, creeping up and being addressed a little bit more. If Jacoby Walter can improve, if Shed wants to continue hitting threes, if Grady Dick can improve his game next season and be a bit more usable on the defensive end of the floor. But there's a lot of lack of defense overall in this Toronto Raptors roster, so getting a gritty and switchable defender should be something the Raptors look for. Easier said than done, because a lot of teams are looking for players like this. However, somebody that I've identified in the free agent market that maybe could be enticed to come to the Raptors and get a bit of a bigger role is Jae'Sean Tate. 29-year-old, has played 5 years with Houston, and as Houston has gotten better, his role has diminished. He doesn't have as big of a role this season. He's a free agent in the offseason. Houston are just a really deep team. There's plenty of good players just not getting rotational minutes, or as many rotational minutes as they would like because of how good Houston is. But I think Jae'Sean Tate could serve the Raptors really well. Perhaps a little bit of an undersized wing, Jae'Sean Tate, but makes up for that with his tenacity. 6'4", but can play as a small forward, can even maybe play sometimes as a power forward. The reason he's not a super popular player with play time in Houston, getting 11 minutes per game right now, not the most adept three-point shooter, maybe fouls a little bit too much on the defensive end. But like I said, tenacious defender, super gritty defender, has the hustle, has the work ethic, and has that kind of winning mentality. And that kind of fits the profile of players Masai Ujiri typically likes to bring into the team. Not going to get an incredible amount of minutes, but I think the Raptors could possibly provide the UFA with an upgraded role, maybe a little bit more touches, actually does fine where he's got to be a bit of a ball handler as well, just usable in so many different areas, distributes decently, scores decently, and defends pretty well. A lot of good things that Jae'Sean Tate can bring to the Raptors. But that type of player, that switchable guy who's gritty on defense and can give you something a little bit on offense, that's another type of player the Raptors need to add in to fill in the cracks of this roster, just to bolster it for a playoff push for next season. Third thing that I would like the Raptors to bring back to the team, they really had it start of the year, and it was nice to see, but it's the point guard depth. I like Emmanuel Quickley. I really like Jamal Shed. I think that you're pretty fine with that as your tandem point guard duo for next season. Quickley starts, Jamal Shed comes off the bench, but what if one of them's missing games? What happens then? Because the Raptors have struggled in areas where there's no definitive point guard. Sure, RJ Barrett can do it. Sure, Scotty Barnes can do it, and maybe in some injury scenarios, those guys started those spots. But I think just adding in, and this isn't somebody that's getting tons of play time, but adding in somebody who can fill a little bit of a void when necessary as your third choice point guard. This can be acquired through free agency or maybe as a second round pick or even maybe an undrafted player out of the draft. Free agent market, I'm looking at guys maybe, again, these are not guys getting tons and tons of play time here. These are guys that just are part of the roster, maybe more veteran presences in some areas that can just help you out when you need it and just be a part of the team. DeLon Wright, Dante Exman for agency, kind of looking at them, could they fill in this role a little bit, potentially? Let's get crazy here. Kyle Lowry's a free agent. Is that a bad guy to have in the locker room? Is that a bad guy to have as your third choice point guard for guys like Shed and Quickley to learn from? Absolutely not. But again, this could also be addressed in the draft or maybe outside the draft, again, with an undrafted free agent. Somebody who can handle the ball, somebody who can distribute, somebody who can alleviate the ball handling duties off of guys like Barrett and Barnes when we're in a pinch and when we need that sort of player. Injuries happen. We have very much learned that injuries happen based on the way things have gone for the Raptors this year. It's nice to have that additional cover in that position. So to summarize, biggest need for me, backup rim protection. Second biggest need for me, more gritty defenders, switchable defenders for the team. Third need, something small, but getting in a third choice point guard just to have, when you need it. break in case of emergency type of guy. Doesn't help. It doesn't hurt, sorry, if he's a locker room guy as well. That sort of player coming to the team would be nice for me. There's lots of things the Raptors can address, but I think these are the three biggest things. What do you think?